Welcome to Unravel, Alina.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today.
How is systemic therapy different from therapy?
Systemic therapy, which sort of focuses on the system that you're born in.
The biggest difference is to understand not just you, but also the elements that's around you. That's the biggest difference.
Exactly. It's not you, it's you in your social bubble.
So, can you recall a moment when it became clear that human mind was going to be a professional playground?
Actually, yes. I was working at Erste Bank, which is a bank in Austria, and I was writing the speech that at the time my boss was delivering, and I changed it up a little bit to be more on the psychological note. He did it the way I wrote it. There was a standing ovation. There was people congratulating him afterwards, crying, and I was just like, you know what? This is what I'm good at. You know, this is what I should do. And that's the moment I realized I should get out of banking and start therapy.
It's quite common that people are afraid that psychotherapists or psychologists do nothing but analyze everyone.
Classic.
Even in their free time. Is this true?
So for me, I always tell people, guys, I don't want to work in my free time, so I'm not spending my free time analyzing you.
Are you analyzing me right now?
Definitely.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Unravel. I'm Manoj, Adithya, and today's guest is Dr. Alina Kastner. She's a force to be reckoned with in the field of systemic psychotherapy. She's not only specializing in systemic family psychotherapy, couple and sexual therapy, but also narcissistic disorder and abuse. She has a vast experience when it comes to entrepreneurship and business. She has successfully launched an app called Breakup, which was helping anyone with a sore heart navigating their breakup. Love Talks, a card game for couples to deepen their intimacy, and she is an actively practicing psychotherapist. She's also a social media influencer with over 100,000 followers on Instagram and TikTok. She was kind enough to find time to sit down with me and discuss her journey. So, welcome to Unravel, Alina.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today.
Great. So, most listeners are probably familiar with the term psychotherapy, but I feel the word systemic might have a new term for some. Could you please explain what this term means and how is systemic therapy different from therapy?
Sure. There's 3 actual schools of therapy in Germany, and in Austria there's actually 27 schools of therapy because we have the country of psychotherapy, so we're quite proud. And one of those is systemic therapy, which sort of focuses on the system that you're born in or that you are in. So, for example, rather than when you have an issue, having that be your issue, it's the issue of your system. So if it's in your workplace and they are affecting you, or if it's in your family system, that's affecting you, your social system of friends, that's kind of where the school of thought is coming from, that it's really relevant, whatever people you have around you in your social contacts, to determine what issue you have at hand with your mental capacity. Yeah.
Right. So the biggest difference is to understand not just you, but also the elements that's around you. That's the biggest difference.
Exactly. It's not you, it's you in your social bubble, so to say.
Got it. Okay, that's good. So based on your education, it seems that you found your way into psychology, psychotherapy early on. I think in 2009, you were already completing your studies in psychology in Vienna and London. Did you recall knowing where this road was heading already at that point?
Actually, back then, when I was in London at LSE, I was thinking about becoming a consultant. So similar, but different.
What kind of consultant?
So like I just thinking about McKinsey or BCG, going into that world and consulting companies and having that that's psychological aspect in it, but not becoming a therapist. I didn't know that back then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So can you recall a moment when it became clear that human mind was going to be a professional playground?
Actually, yes. I was working at Erste Bank, which is a bank in Austria, and I was writing the speech that at the time my boss was delivering, and I changed it up a little bit to be more on the psychological note. And he actually doubted the success of that speech. He's like, "Are you sure we should do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just try it. Try a different route once." And put those elements in there. I think your people are going to appreciate it. I think it's going to establish connection between you and your employees. And he did it the way I wrote it. He was quite nervous doing it, actually. It's quite funny. And when he brought it across, people were, I mean, there was a standing ovation. There was people congratulating him afterwards, crying. And I was just like, you know what? This is what I'm good at. You know, this is what I should do. And that's the moment I realized I should get out of banking and start therapy.
Which year was this?
Oh my God, you're asking me questions. I'm so bad with numbers. Must have been like 2016.
Okay. Not
Something
too long
like that,
ago.
yeah.
Okay. And did your family support this decision of you going into psychology or psychotherapy?
Yes, fully. So my parents are both very chilled and very liberal, and they always let me go down the road I want to go down. And my aunt is actually a therapist, and she was actually a little bit of a role model for me.
Nice.
Because I thought she has such a cool job, and she's really good at it. So I kind of went down, like followed her little footsteps.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
And it's quite common that people are afraid that psychotherapists or psychologists do nothing but analyze everyone.
Classic.
Even in their free time. Is this true?
So for me, I always tell people, guys, I don't want to work in my free time, so I'm not spending my free time analyzing you. But yes, it's true. People have that idea and they're a little bit afraid to open up to you, thinking you're going to analyze them to the T.
Good. Are you analyzing me right now?
Definitely.
Yeah. So, you know, part of psychology was part of your study. After that, you already, you decide, okay, this is the area you want to go into. But at what point or where did your entrepreneurial spark begin?
I think actually the entrepreneurial spark started before the therapist spark did. My dad is a hardcore entrepreneur, and I've always looked up to him a lot for all the things he's done and all the different paths he sort of went down. And he does something, and then he makes it successful, and then he leaves it and he wants to start something else rather than like enjoy the success and stay with it. He just wants to get new challenges up, and I think that's a really cool trait he has. So I think I kind of have that in my genes and my blood, wanting to be like that on that front. So every time I had an idea, I was very passionate about it and wanted to create something. So that kind of started before. Yeah, that's just something you have or you don't have. You want to sort of go somewhere unknown. Yeah. And I love that, exploring new stuff. Yeah.
Nice. What was your first venture?
My first venture was Breakup Buddy. That was the app that I created. And I was living in London at the time and wanted to do an app that sort of brings single people together after a breakup. So the slogan was "Be Single Together," right? Okay. So that they don't have to suffer through their breakup as much as they usually do. So I kind of had that vibe with relationships and breakups and all, before starting therapy already. That was very interesting topic to me, because I think there's a lot of pain, a lot of anguish, a lot of desperation as well in that, and people really need help. And I thought this app could sort of help them get out of their loneliness and their despair. Right. Yeah.
So you were a girl studying in London and you decided to start an app. I'm not sure if you have a technical background, but how did you even pull it together?
Well, I really don't have a tech background. This is probably why it didn't work at the end. Yeah. I feel like there's me, and then there's the tech guys, and then there's Chinese translation in between, right?
Oh, like, you hired guys from China?
No. Like I had guys from Austria and London, but I mean, like the fact that we don't speak the same language,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's a language barrier between programmers and just a creative soul that wants to start something. But yeah, that was fun.
And how long did it take you from going from an idea to a finished product?
I think to have the app launch was like a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Yeah. So it was pretty quick, but at the same time, not.
Right. How much of your own savings did you have to put into this?
That is a secret.
Okay.
A lot.
Maybe all of it?
Maybe all of it. Maybe a little bit more than all of that.
Okay. So what was the traction like, and what were the biggest obstacles you had to overcome after you launched it?
Okay, so obstacles to overcome after we launched. So actually the obstacles, I think, were before launch already. After raising, seed money and stuff, we just... I think that I made all the mistakes you can make when launching an app for the first time. So
We all do.
Yeah, I wanted it to be worldwide.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be iOS and Android.
Yeah.
I was like, let's go all out. And I think those are mistakes that you wouldn't make if you did it a second time, right? You would know that you need a little hub. That's where you started. Only do, I don't know, West London. Don't do worldwide. Market it right.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of those issues. And also, I was a one-woman show.
Yeah.
And I definitely now understand that you cannot do it all by yourself. You need a team, and you need the right team. Like, I had an amazing creative director. I had an amazing CFO. Like, there was a couple of people on my team that were great, but you need a bigger team than that. Like, you need someone for marketing. You need someone for this. You can't stem it all with 3, 4, or 5 people. So I think that was my biggest learning, to understand that even if you're working 24/7, it's not going to succeed if you don't have the right people around you.
Absolutely.
Your system.
100% agree. I think the team is the most important part. I think even in the last few episodes, we always emphasize on team and the importance of having a team. But since you're a solo founder, do you feel like maybe having a co-founder, maybe a technical co-founder, you'd have been a bit more successful?
Yes, 100%. So like, I actually had my tech guys, they had a percentage of the company. Like, I gave them so that they would work, more of their own initiative, because it's also part of their, like, it's theirs. So it's their baby and my baby. But even that didn't work to the extent that I hoped it would. So, yeah.
So
definitely.
What happened to Breakup Buddy in the end?
So basically we launched it, and then the money was out.
Okay.
And that would, I think the biggest learning there was, you need to keep X amount to...
You need to raise enough money.
Yeah, well, first of all that, but you need to keep X amount to just market what you have, right? And at that point, it was just also a bad time for any app that has to do with dating, even though this one wasn't a direct dating app. It was in the dating sphere of apps, and Tinder IPO'd quite badly that year.
Yeah.
And so the investors were shy to invest in anything that had to do with the topic of dating. So that was a big hurdle. And I felt that because I was running around trying to get some angel investors in, or even VCs, and they were all like, Tinder just IPO'd really bad. We were really not feeling like investing in dating apps. So that was kind of the fall for Breakup Buddy.
Right.
Yeah. And then after working with a 3-4 people team for free for a year, you need to start getting realistic, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like, now I lost my baby, but it's okay. You can get new ones.
How did that failure impact you?
I guess failure is a big word for me, because I feel like the only difference between a winner and a failure is like getting up one more time.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like we failed.
Yeah.
But I think the product, and also I don't think the product failed. I don't think the app is a failure. I think it was just wrong time. Timing. Yeah.
I think there was this video that I watched, or a TED Talk, I don't know, a very long time ago. You can have everything in place, but the most important thing that you need is timing.
Yeah.
Google launching, 10 years before that wouldn't have worked. Any app, it's all about timing. And I feel like timing is the right thing. And I'm glad that you already recognize it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I haven't given up on it yet.
Okay.
might bring it back. And the second thing is, because you said timing, there's also relevant to relationships. When you have chemistry, the only other thing you need is timing.
Yeah.
But timing is so that's so true.
This is something I heard in a TV show, right? I
but
forgot the name of the show.
I don't know, I read it on an Instagram post.
Yeah, I forgot the name of the TV show.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your next venture?
So after that, I went out of the app world, and I actually did the studies for psychotherapy, which in Vienna it takes 6 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, actually, 6 years, which is on top of the psychology. So it's a whole different field there, and did my own practice. And with that, the little social media and my card game, Love Talks.
Yes.
So that's out on Amazon now, and I'm quite proud of it, but also haven't done a lot of marketing for it. So I'm going to start pushing that when it's in the US store as well, because right now it's just available in Europe.
Could you please tell us more about what Love Talks is so our
Yes.
listeners would know?
Of course. So Love Talks is a card game for all couples. And I created it because I do a lot of couples therapy with a lot of couples that have been together for quite a while and they want to like reignite their spark and their passion for each other or their intimacy and they don't know how to do it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to create a little game that I can give those couples that feel like they want to sort of be more with each other and get to know each other on a different level again, even after 10 years, 20 years of marriage, or in the very beginning, get to know each other better. So I created this game that sort of allows that to happen at home through very intimate questions, very deep questions, also on a sexual note, on childhood. Like there's 5 categories. There's childhood, there's let's get personal. So it's like very personal questions. There's this is us. So questions about the couple that's talking. And then there's intimacy and X-rated, which are the sex questions, so to speak. And it's all about, you know, fantasy, visions, childhood, memories, like all about those kinds of things that will develop connection between lovers in any case. And then I've got some prompt cards, which the point of those are is to sort of each person takes 25 cards and once a week or once every 2 weeks picks a card but doesn't tell their partner and then implements that prompt, which can be tiny prompts like giving each other a compliment or bigger prompts that are like a little bit more special, more romantic, without telling the partner that it's from the game. I mean, they know that they're playing it, but it's kind of, you know, it gets lost after a couple of weeks.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and so that they just sort of have their spark back and have appreciation for each other and spend some quality time giving each other things that they miss or need without it being, you know, pressured. So basically it's like having a therapist at home for only 35 euros. So yeah, I hope that, I mean, the couples that I gave it to or that I sold it to were super happy about it and gave me good feedback. So I'm confident it's gonna.
Yeah, because my follow-up question to that, what were the reactions of early adopters? What did they say?
They really loved it. Like, I mean, maybe they're not telling me the truth because I am biased, but no, I've heard really good feedback. Also from friends, you know, that would tell me the truth. They were very happy about it. And they're like, it was a great night, or we had great evenings doing that and playing. We even play, you know, in our group, like we even play it with friends and get to know each other better. So it's very fun.
Nice. So why did you decide to start a card game? Like, why this card game?
Well, like I said, because I think that it would help, it would help the couples without having to go to therapy. So that's why this card game. I just think it's a really, you know, there's a lot of games out there for couples in general. Like I've done my research before I started, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of things, but I feel this one has like the therapeutic twist that other games don't have. So there's a lot of getting to know each other question games, even friendship, parents, you know, there's several, like so many, but this one has this therapeutic touch that others don't.
Right. So what are the different lessons you've learned from launching your app, your card game, and your own practice? So it's like, in my view, there are 3 entrepreneurial journeys, very different. Were they different experiences or were they very much similar?
No, they were quite different. I think the app was the most challenging one. It was also the first one. So it's like the first one's always the hardest kind of, and had the biggest vision of like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. I was also like quite stressed about it sometimes, And then with the practice, that's something that just organically happened. And I was very lucky also because I think the time that I started my private practice in Vienna, COVID hit. So there was a lot of need for therapy.
Right.
And I feel like me and all colleagues who started at the same time were quite full quite quickly. So we had that, you know, maybe sometimes in the beginning it would take a couple weeks, months for you to get your practice full, up to a year or 2. That's normal. But we were all full within a couple of weeks, which gives you the benefit of like, you know, starting quickly, seeing where you're good or seeing what things work well and which direction you want to take it, because in the beginning you have no idea what you want to focus on. And that kind of crystallized quickly. So I found out very fast like what my main topics are that I love to work with and where I'm good at and where clients have the most benefit from me. So that's what I chose to focus on. And that's where like couples therapy, sex therapy, and also the narcissistic abuse comes into play.
Right. Also, another entrepreneur journey, at least the way I look at it, is now you're also a social media influencer. And I think in a matter of 6 months, you went from almost 0 followers to now over 100,000.
Yeah, I think
Why
it was
social media?
Okay, so it was crazy because we posted the first post. I will never forget it. My friend Alina, who is now in my team, she's fantastic. She's very good with TikTok and stuff. She's like, listen, you need to get on TikTok. And I was like, honestly, I don't even know what TikTok, like I knew what TikTok was, but like I've never been on TikTok before. I was like, I don't know about that. You know, isn't it like my 20-year-old sisters are, you know, like brothers are scrolling on that. Okay, let's try. And we sat down, made the video, and boom, that video had like 1 million a million views after 3 days. So that was crazy. I was like, what is this TikTok? This is
crazy.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so that was the 28th of November last year. And then in February, we had over 100,000 followers on TikTok and also moved it to Instagram. And so now on both channels, there's we have like 250,000 together or something like that, which was just so overwhelmingly amazing. And I was very excited about it. And that was kind of, we posted something that I feel the world needed to hear, or a lot of people felt like they could identify with what I'm saying, and or it's giving them answers that they've been searching for, which is very nice because if you're in a practice, you can only help maximum 7 people a day, 8 people a day. And this way I can help hundreds of thousands of people with one video. So that's a fantastic reach I have there. And it's just so much bigger. Right. But it's so much bigger that sometimes you're like, okay, wow, you know,
this is crazy.
Yeah, this is crazy in a good way. So I'm so grateful. Honestly, I'm very humbly grateful for the following, for the audience, for everybody really commenting and letting me know what they want to hear. And I hope that I can help more and more people as time goes by. Yeah. It's obviously also sometimes stressful. Like we need to know where to focus on, what to do. But I think narcissism is a huge topic, and abuse, and generally toxic relationships. People, you know, it doesn't have to be narcissists, but toxic relationships and psychological abuse in relationships is a huge topic where people need help on. Yeah. And I feel like there's a lot of people pretending that they can give good advice, which is also dangerous online. Yeah. Like I really have to say sometimes I'm worried because it's just a random person saying random things, which can be great, but can also be quite dangerous. People follow, especially teenagers or something. Right. So I'm glad we have the sort of official background to say the things we want to say and have the expertise on the topic. So that's good. Yeah. Yeah,
I've been following you on your social media, of course. That's how we found you, and your engagement is pretty crazy. Like the number of people that are relatable, they're saying, oh my God, you know, what you just said, you know, it's like a lesson that I've been looking for. You know, there's a lot of positive comments and there's also some negative as well. Yeah. How do you handle them?
I was actually scared of that first. I was like, oh, if people say really mean things, I'm a very sensitive soul. I don't want them to say bad things. But there's so much positivity and there's also, Manoj, I'm getting like a lot of people telling me I'm saving their life, you know, which is so sweet. And I feel so, you know, happy if somebody says that that's what we're able to do here. But the negative comments, I guess it's just part of life. Like if you say things that are polarizing and if you have strong opinions, there's always going to be people that hate you or that hate on you or whatever. Yeah. So I guess I've learned to accept it. It's okay. And some people have points, even if, you know, they're against it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll take that. And then I try to think about it and sometimes even do answer videos to those comments. And some people just want to be angry.
Yeah, haters always hate.
Haters gonna hate. So what you gonna do?
Yeah. And has the social media aspect impacted your actual practice?
Yes, it has actually. I did not think that this was going to happen. like that. But because of the social media, I have a lot of more international clients that are doing online, and I've reduced time in my practice in order to accommodate that. So I do have a lot of online internationals now that I didn't. I mean, I had them before, but it's a lot more in number. So yes, has changed the setup.
Right. I mean, you told me that the social media aspect, a friend suggested, so you got into it. So is this just you right now, or do you have a team behind?
No, I need to give credit where credit's due. So I've got Alina, who helps me with the videos and the content, and she's just this TikTok specialist, I'm gonna say. She's fantastic, and she does all the filming and every time we do anything on video, she's there. And then I've got a personal assistant, Vienna, who is doing 30 hours a week helping me with all this stuff. Like, she's also incredible. So without them, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because it's 3 full-time jobs. So
what part of this business is hard to manage? You know, you got a lot going on, in my opinion. So what is the hardest part about your job right now?
I think this sounds cliche, but I really enjoy all of it. I promise. Also, like flying around, being here, I think it's great fun. It's so I'm never bored, so I love the fact that we're doing a lot of things. I think the most challenging is prioritizing what to do when. So, for example, like, I'm writing a book now. I just signed a book deal, and when to write the book, when to do the next seminar, when to do the next video that's going to be on subscription, or like for like more in-depth content, we're doing that as well. When to do a live, you know, just to organize. Basically, time management, I think, is the biggest challenge in all of this, between having a full practice. So it's, you know, juggling all those things and seeing where. I mean, I love the live work with clients in my practice, but I think I always have to sort of weigh out how can I help more people. And obviously with social media stuff, I can reach a lot more people. So I'm in the limbo always between, okay, what do I do when? That's kind of the biggest challenge.
Wow, impressive. So psychology and entrepreneurship, I would say they conflict in a way, because
how is that?
psychology makes you super self-aware and realistic. Entrepreneurship is all about dreaming. Has the combination of this had an impact on you as an entrepreneur?
So entrepreneurship is all about dreaming at first, and then you better get to it, because otherwise nothing happens. But yeah, I think self-awareness, in the sense that you can't take yourself too seriously when you're doing things, and you can't take things too personal. That's a big lesson, because at first you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this, you know, like, and it's so fantastic, and you have these illusions of grandeur with you and all that stuff, and then you sort of get back to reality. So yeah, in a sense they do, but I don't think they conflict. I think it's great to have it together.
Right. So do you think being self-aware or being part of psychotherapy has made you a better entrepreneur?
I don't know. Good question.
Okay.
No answer.
Maybe an answer for the future.
Yeah.
Do you think it also gives you the ability to handle obstacles better?
Yes, I think it does. Like, and honestly, going back to your last question, I think it's just time will tell, you know. I feel we're doing a great job. I feel things are aligning, and it's going really well. But there's always just your audience to thank for that. So when they feel like you're not doing a good job anymore, they'll let you know. And I guess, we'll see.
So what was the hardest lesson to learn during your journey?
I think my hardest lesson was learning to let go of things. So
that's the hardest part.
Yeah. So first baby, to lose sort of with Breakup buddy, learning to know when it's time to move on, kind of thing. Yeah. And just letting that go and not dwelling on it, and just being like moving on to the next thing. And I think that's that.
Okay. And have you had any moments when you almost wanted to give up in any part of your ventures?
No, giving up is not really my nature, but there was moments like now actually TikTok is being mean to me. I feel
Yeah.
like from the wave of success,
Yeah.
it's going down. And I noticed like, fantastic colleagues like Esther Perel or Matthew Hussey or all like fantastic people around. They have the same issue. So like views are dropped quite heavily. And I have to say that messes with your mind, right? Because you're like, okay, what's happening? Why is this not working?
Yeah.
Am I doing something wrong? And
yeah.
then
Your first video gets 1 million views and now you don't get any views.
yeah,
The
it's like
algorithm.
5 million to 3,000. And I'm like, what? But I think that's just TikTok.
Yeah.
So I think it's also good because it keeps you on your toes, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to.
Take it for granted.
Exactly.
Right. So are there any failures in your life or lessons that you went through that you're maybe find insightful now or you're grateful for?
Yeah, like I said, the word is really hard for me I don't see it like that. Like if things, for example, I think Breakup Buddy was a failed app, like it didn't work. But I've learned so much from that. And if I could do it again, maybe I would do it again. Maybe I will do it again.
Yeah.
There would be things I do very different.
Yeah.
But I think all of those are great lessons to take with you. So like nothing that where I'm like, oh my gosh, I regret doing that or trying it. I think there's nothing you ever try that you really regret
Right.
work-wise.
So according to you, what are the most important traits a successful entrepreneur needs to have?
Okay. So confidence. And here we go, statistic manual of narcissistic personality disorder. I do think you need illusions of grandeur. I think you need to be able to, if you put in a positive light, dream huge, not big, but dream huge, and believe that you can do that and that you can reach the stars. If you don't have that vision, I think you're missing something as an entrepreneur. And not being afraid, using fear to jump into it and not to run away from it. So not being afraid of failing, again, we have that word. If you're afraid of failing, generally, if you're afraid to take a step, it's not going to work. So you just need to jump right into that ice cold water and just see how you can swim and how you can manage and see how long you can stay afloat. Yeah.
Right. So speaking about narcissistic personality disorder, and on your website, you also have a separate section dedicated to this. And in the past few years, as an average social media consumer, what is this and why are people talking about it so much right now?
Good question. I think it's just part of that is because people abuse the word. I think it's just a huge inflationary word that's just in style to use. Part of it is because it's getting more and more, and part of it is because it's cool to be narcissistic as well. So there's different elements.
It's cool to be a narcissist.
Yeah,
okay.
a little bit. Like it's cool to be selfish. It's cool to get people out the way and do your own thing. People admire that to a degree. Yeah, we've got some famous people. I'm not gonna say any names, but we've got some very famous people, very successful people who are written off as massive narcissists, right? But I think it's just something that's due to a lot of factors, just more and more prevalent, and people are in so much pain and there's so much abuse going on. And so I think that's why it's such a huge topic. And I noticed it when I was posting my first video. I didn't, have the idea of doing narcissistic element, such a strong element in my social media. But every time I post something else, people are like, oh, can you, they're asking for it. So it's just very needed.
Yeah.
And a very relevant topic. So that's why I choose to focus a lot of videos on it. And I know a lot of people are tired of it as well. Sometimes I'm thinking, okay, are we talking too much about this? But every time we do, it's just really relevant and people need it. So that's why I deliver.
Were you interested in this specific topic?
Oh, okay. So because I had, in my practice before the social media wave, I actually had a lot of women, it was mostly women between the age, my youngest, probably 22 to 40, who were in very toxic relationships, who were desperate to get out of them, and at the same time so in love with their abuser that there was no way they're going to leave them at the time. And with my journey, like accompanying them through the months. It didn't take longer than a couple of months for any of them, thank God, to be able to get the strength, the confidence, and the realization that this is not going to get better and it's not going to change for the better, because there's so much hope involved. You know, you're always hanging on a string of hope. And me accompanying these women made me just realize how important it is that they have like a hand that holds them on their path out of toxicity. And I think that's why that's why I started focusing a lot of topics on those toxic relationships in general.
Yeah.
And raising awareness, because one thing is to get out of one of those relationships, but the other thing is not to pick the next person who is equally toxic, right? So there needs that. This is very, you know, the player might change, but the game is still the same kind of thing. Yeah. So you need to reprogram a lot of things in order to not take that next toxic relationship, like in order not to enter a next toxic relationship. And I think that's where the key is in change, because we tend to sort of pick the same bait, if you may say so. Yeah.
You know, people always misunderstand that you only have narcissistic partners, you know, like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. But then I've also seen in your own series of videos that you also talk about narcissistic parents. You know, what context do you usually see narcissistic people?
So parents often play a big role. I feel when the household is narcissistic, the kids often choose a narcissistic partner, or tend to go for a narcissistic boss, or tend to have a narcissistic best friend. So it's like the vibe that you grew up with and the sort of mental issues you grew up with are familiar to you. So subconsciously you seek them when you meet people, right? And you attract it. And that's something that needs reprogramming in order to stop doing that, because it's something you feel familiar with, something you can handle. That's where your coping mechanisms are good, because it's you know how to deal with these people. And that's why I think people draw them into their lives. So yeah, it's all of those.
So what would you recommend to a person that's currently in a narcissistic relationship, but they don't recognize it? How would you help them? Because in a lot of places, people don't even recognize it, that they're in an abusive relationship.
I mean, if they don't know yet, they tend to still have some sort of pain threshold that's quite high, and they come to me explaining what's going on and giving me situations and specific details, and then I can reflect it with them, and then they usually discover quite quickly where they're at. But I think that is actually a valid point, and it's going to be the beginning chapters of my book are going to be the validation that you are not crazy, but you are with someone toxic, and this is real and it's happening, and you need to be aware, because that's step one in order to get out.
Right. Maybe a very naive question. How would you know if you yourself are a narcissist? Like, for example, I have this question: am I a narcissist? After looking at all these videos, when I question myself, how does one know if they're a narcissist? Because I'm like, am I one? I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
I mean, like I said, narcissism is there's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So the narcissistic personality disorder, you've got the criteria, and if you have 5 or more of those, you are a narcissistic personality disorder, so we can look at them. But before listing those, I think that the biggest difference is I think a lot of successful people, a lot of people with a lot of vision or like visionaries, general entrepreneurs, we of course have narcissistic aspects to us. Yeah. Everyone included, us included, right? Which is fine, which is something healthy and will get you will get you somewhere in life. I think that's okay. But you definitely can rule yourself out if you, for example, feel empathy for people. And I think you do.
I do.
Exactly. And if you can regret things, like those are things narcissists don't do. They take reality and change it. They don't have the sense of responsibility for their actions, and they don't regret things. They don't have remorse, right?
I regret a lot of things.
Yeah, it's like a psychopath, right? So they don't feel that feeling, and that's something. If you lack empathy, if you lack remorse, and that's when you can start worrying. Before that, if you just feel like sometimes, I love what I'm doing, or I find myself pretty in the mirror, or I don't know, I love my company. I think it's so great. And I reach for the stars. That's totally okay, and that's healthy.
Right.
That's the difference. So to answer your question, I don't think you're a narcissistic personality
good.
disorder.
Good to know.
You don't have it.
So nowadays people actually throw this term around. Like it's like easy. Just say you're a narcissist, just for fun. They just say it. But what is the significant difference between a true narcissist and a simply, let's say, selfish or self-absorbed person? I think you briefly touched on this already, but
so I think if you have, you can have selfish traits, or you can be selfish and self-absorbed and a little bit toxic, but then you still have that interconnected analysis skill of saying of feeling like, oh, now I've crossed the boundary, now the other person is hurt, now I've messed up, and can be sorry for where you're at. Of course, if you want to go through life just being super selfish, you can do that, but there's just massive differences. And these people might not have illusions of grandeur. They might not have the lack of remorse, or they might not manipulate and gaslight and lie. And there's all these things that narcissists, that a person with narcissistic personality disorder specifically does, that these people don't. So that's a big difference. Yeah.
Got it. I was talking to a couple of friends that, I'm going to have Dr. Alina on our show. And I was asking, okay, do you guys have any questions that you guys want me to ask? And one friend specifically mentioned the word gaslighting.
Okay.
And you just mentioned it. That's kind of why I remembered it. So what is gaslighting?
So gaslighting is when someone puts you in a situation where to sort of drive you crazy by changing up facts, maneuvering and manipulating the situation. And
why would someone even do that?
Yeah, it's so narcissists always about creating power and giving themselves power over you. So dominating you with the power play, and at the point where they have you doubting your own truth or doubting your memory, for example, if something happened, where they rearrange the narrative and they tell you, oh no, that's not even true. I didn't even do that. And you're like, I have it black and white on text, but I never said that, and then you start, so the moment you start doubting yourself, which is what really happens. I mean, I have people going, am I going crazy, Alina? I think I'm going crazy. Maybe I'm the crazy person. Maybe I'm the narcissist. This is something I hear every time I have a session with people, right? And the answer is yes, you feel like you're going crazy because they're doing that with you. Yeah. They're gaslighting you to the point where you doubt yourself so much that they have so much power over you, because then maybe they're right and your position is weakened, right? By definition. So that's what that is.
Right. Why do people do this?
Well, to gain the power, to keep to keep you small and keep themselves above you. It's really important for their ego, because they lack so much self-worth that they want to be put on a pedestal. They want to be higher. They want to be looked up at. Yeah.
I've actually been in the same situation where I was self-doubting myself. What does someone have to do to recognize that someone is doing this to you?
I think in a healthy relationship, you should never feel like you're going crazy.
Yeah.
And there's points, of course, in healthy relationships where you fight, where you hate the other person, where you want to, you just want to go crazy. But there should never be this self-doubt to the point of crumbling self-worth. And I think that's what happens with these dynamics, where you really just are asking yourself if you are insane. And I always say this, I know this is beat up, but making sense of crazy will drive you insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so because they act in a it's just in a way that you can't understand, you're trying to make sense of it, and that leaves you feeling crazy.
Right.
Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking.
In navigating this crazy, you're like, why would they do that? You're just like you said before, why would somebody do that?
Yeah.
And you're asking yourself, why would they do this? Why would they lie about X?
Yeah.
But you're asking yourself these questions if you're asking because you are healthy, right? Because you function in a normal way. Because if you were a narcissist, you'd be like, oh, that makes sense. I do that. Yeah. So that's kind of the difference there.
Well, don't you have anything better to do? Like read a book?
Yeah, clearly not. Hopefully.
What I'm thinking about is, does your childhood have a huge impact on the way you are today that makes you a narcissist?
So yes, so if children are neglected in early years, or if they're overshowered with praise, that sort of leads to narcissistic traits and narcissistic personality disorder, because they either way lack the like they have dissonance in what's happening and how they're feeling. So if they're feeling like my mom is praising me for things that I haven't even done, or overshowering me with praise even though I'm not even worth it, they'll start feeling that lack of worth. And if they're neglected, they obviously feel lack of worth, right? So they spend their whole life trying to mend that pain by abusing other people. So actually this is really sad, and it's, having narcissistic personality disorder is sad, but they just exploit others. And so you can't, even if you feel sorry for them, they still need to stop doing what they're doing. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So being neglected, I think this is something I think a lot of kids are going through because of divorce. And divorce is pretty high on the rise. And the first person that gets affected is your kids. And kids get neglected. They get left off in, the grandparents' house or somewhere else until the parents can figure it out themselves. What does that have to do with how does that impact you as you grow up to be an adult?
That's a huge question. And so there's various ways of answering that. But I think the key factor is, what you shouldn't forget is, in attachment theory, there's only what you need in order to grow up to have a healthy sort of self-worth is one primary caregiver. That's what every child needs. So they've done studies where they've spent newborns, and they, like, I don't know who gave this is not legal now, but there's been studies where they didn't feed babies. So they didn't give them food, but they were holding them and hugging them and giving them love. And other babies they fed, but they were just in the ICU unit or wherever they were, I don't know exactly, not being held, not being loved. Okay, so basically nurture versus getting fed. And the babies that didn't get held, like that didn't receive love, they died even though they were getting food. Can you imagine?
Oh, wow.
And the babies that were getting no food but just getting held and loved, they survived. So I don't know how exactly how this worked with ethics, this experiment, but and so what I'm trying to get to is, when you feel loved by even just one primary caregiver, you will be okay and you will develop self-worth that is fine, versus when you don't feel loved and you feel neglected. So coming back to your question, like, of being left with the grandparents or only staying with mom, only staying with dad, that is okay. I'm gonna, with a disclaimer, it's not okay, but that's okay if the child is still feeling loved and if it has a caregiver that's giving them what they need. One. Because otherwise every single mother would have messed up kids, right? That's not how it works, thank God. So one parent is, or if someone dies, it's not just divorce. It's like if circumstances happen and the father has cancer or the mother has a car accident or something, and you're left with one parent, it doesn't mean that you're going to be, by all means, mentally ill or narcissistic or anything like that. It's just the circumstance needs to be that you have one person who shows you that you're loved. And ideally that's a parent, because grandparents can't make up for that.
What happens when you don't feel loved?
Well, that's where you start having a hole in your self-worth and start developing coping mechanisms to get that self-worth filled up, right? And which, for example, is narcissistic personality disorder, or if you can go direction borderline, where you always feel empty, you don't really, like, you don't have steady relationships, you feel like you need to essentially fill a hole that's there in your soul your whole life. Also, if a lot of situations where fathers leave the kids or mothers leave the kids, and your whole life, even if you understand as an adult what happened, you're missing something. Your whole life you're asking yourself the question, why?
Yeah. Does this also make you extremely insecure about everything?
Can be, yeah.
And just from personal experience, I'm not going to say it's not from personal experience. From personal experience, this is also, for example, let's say when you start showing love towards somebody, and this person who's been neglected, they start pulling back. They start feeling unsure, like, and they start distancing yourself. Why does that happen?
This goes back to attachment theory. So there's anxious attachment, avoidant attachment. There's different ways when you experience something unstable. That's what you know. So that's what you're looking for. So if something is then too stable, like you said, you're showering her with love. She wasn't used to that in her childhood. She might get irritated and start mistrusting and not understand what's going on. So there's that also, should call for therapy in order for her to reprogram herself that she is worth it and that she's an adult now and that she does deserve stability in love and continuity and not have like hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
How does one, handle it? Like, let's say if I'm in the situation where all of a sudden someone is showing love to me, I'm not used to it. How do I react to that?
I don't know. How do you react to that? That's you mean like what the therapist would tell you, or
I mean, I'm just asking, like from your background, from your expertise. I'm a person. Let's say, for example, that someone is. I was never shown love all my childhood, and now someone is genuinely showing interest in my life, my well-being, and they're caring for me. But
is it hard to take?
Is it hard to take? I start doubting: is this true?
Right.
Is this real? And then I go back to
exactly you're
mistrusting.
Exactly, you're showing exactly what I just said. Yeah, it's just like why do they love, right? And then you start not trusting them.
Yeah, exactly.
And you feel like it's a setup.
It's a setup, exactly.
What does she want from me?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing, right? Like, what does she really want?
Yeah.
So those are the questions, which is so sad because you should know that you're worth loving and then be able to accept that when it comes your way and enjoy it. But that's really hard to do sometimes, and I get that.
So how do you cope with it? Like, what do you do? Just accept it, or
therapy?
Yeah, fair.
Lots of therapy.
Yeah. So also going back to narcissistic people and entrepreneurship. So do you think someone needs to have a little pinch of narcissism in order to be a successful entrepreneur?
Probably.
Why would you say that?
Like I explained before with the illusions of grandeur, just thinking outside the box, reaching for the stars, you've got to have elements of being overconfident, believing in you, your team, pulling through when times are rough. But these are. I mean, I was half joking. These are not necessarily narcissistic traits, but just I think the most important is that you just don't give up, and that you just keep. That you realize it's going to be rough. It's going to be waves of fun, not fun, difficult times, easy times, and you go with the flow and you navigate through the storm. And just like I said, don't give up. The moment you give up, you're left with losing or failing rather than winning. Yeah.
In therapy in general, people talk about being aware, and being an entrepreneur is actually being a bit delusional. It's very hard. It's very contradictory. So how do you look at that aspect?
I just learned from Aluna a couple of weeks ago, the word delulu, which is not, have you heard it before? It just means like totally delusional, but in the context of relationships, I think. And I love that word. So yes, I think you have to be a little bit delulu to pull through with a lot of ideas. It depends, right? Because some startups or some entrepreneurial things are straightforward and they're not as dangerous or as big or as tricky as some others. So it depends where you're at and where you're like what you're doing exactly and the risk you're taking and the investment you need to, all of those things. What was the question? I got lost now. If you have to be delusional for so I think it depends on the venture that you have going on.
Right. So the reason why I asked this question is, for example, I recently sold my previous company and I'm thinking about starting another one. And every time I tell people, that this is going to be my next $1 billion startup. And in my view, the way I look at it is I'm confident I'm going to get there because I have a plan.
Right.
But for a normal person, when they listen to it, this guy's fucking delusional. That's exactly what they're going to say.
Yeah.
So from an audience perspective, how does what would you think of it basically if I said that?
Well, you have said that to me, and
I
I think it's. And I said I'm gonna invest. Don't forget that. But jokes aside, or truth aside, I think what's important is to do your due diligence, check that person out. But if they have, you have what you're saying, and you've done this before, and you've made some extremely successful exits. So why would you fail in this one? You're not going to let it go. You're just going to continue. At the same time, every investor should always know that no matter what happens, you can always lose this money, and you only invest what you can stand to lose.
Exactly.
So I think there's a risk always. I mean, it would be a lie to say no, but I don't think you're delusional if you have these big dreams. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think without those, our lives would be empty.
Yeah. So in your perspective, what is the difference between being confident and being delusional?
I think being confident is knowing what you have and using that to get to X.
Right.
And trusting in yourself and your path and life and God or the universe or whatever you believe in. That in German is a word called Zuversicht, but it's like having faith, but in life, yeah? And being delusional is just like not having a plan, creating some scenery that or creating a thing that doesn't exist, like having it be way out of reach, not having a plan to have a goal that's way out of reach is delusional kind of thing. Or wanting to conquer the world, or I don't know. But even delusional people sometimes were successful in history. I'm not going to mention it, but we all know what we're talking about. So
a little German
there is
guy.
that. Yeah, exactly. There is also that. Some people are delusional and still going to successfully pull it off.
Yeah.
And
okay, fair. So everyone defines success differently. So what does success mean to you?
I feel like 10 years ago, if you would have asked me what's successful to you, I would have given you a net number of what I want to make every month, right? Yeah, like a net number. This is what I want to make every month. 10 years later now, I know that I've reached that, and I don't feel like, ooh, I'm the most successful, So I think success in a healthy light is something that's always gonna get more and more and more. Like you're going to reach your little goals, and then you're going to want more. And then you're going to reach your little goals, and you're going to want more. That's kind of how success is built. So you always have more, bigger, cooler goals for yourself. At the same time, important is to appreciate those milestones, to pause, thank the universe for it, be humble that you've reached this point. Don't take yourself too seriously if you haven't reached it, or even if you have, just be like, okay, so life gave this to me. I worked really hard for it. And there's always aspects of luck, of timing that we spoke about, of energetic force. I do really believe in that. And it's not just all you, it's you and a lot of hard work, no doubt, but it's also a credit to a lot of other things. So always be grateful. And then you can, sort of aim for more. That's work success, or maybe other aspects of life as well. But I also feel like now, being 36, turning 37 in 2 weeks, when I hear the word success, it's also it's a personal thing, how much you are at peace with where you are at that point in time.
Right.
And I mean 360. I don't just mean work, but I mean also personal life, and how much you've sort of spent time with yourself and getting to know yourself and working on yourself always.
Right.
So I think it's a big word in life that has a different meaning now at 35 or 36 or 37 than it did 10 years ago. I'm trying to make myself younger. So I think it changes. Yeah.
Right. So have you managed to reach your personal success?
To a degree, yes.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there's so much space to go up. So both.
Right.
Yes and no.
So do you think launching your influencer career has changed your meaning towards success?
Yes, I think that with the social media, there's or influencing creator role. It's so much bigger than I had ever imagined,
Right.
which is super exciting and challenging. But yes, definitely changed the way
Right.
you look at it.
So, what's next for you?
My very next project is my little book. So I'm writing a book on narcissism, and I'm going to publish it next year. It's the manuscript's due January, so that's very exciting, and I hope that it's going to really help a lot of people. And my goal with this is really to delve into the heart of people who are struggling with this topic and really help them out. So that's next project.
So, can you share a bit more about the book?
Ooh, not yet.
Okay.
Secret.
So, are there any other new ideas that you're brewing, part of being an entrepreneur? A new app, maybe, or a new project?
App? No, I do have another one in the pipeline, hopefully coming out in 2 weeks. But I don't know if I can share it yet. It's a journal. I'm going to say that much.
Okay.
It's a journal that helps people get over a difficult situation. I'm not going to say more, but
Okay.
I'll launch that. I think in 2-3 weeks. It depends on Amazon how their logistics are going to go. So
Is this it's like a physical product?
it's a physical product,
Okay.
that you can order, and it's going to be in 2 colors for guys and for girls. And I love this product. It's one of my actually it might be my favorite so far. So yeah.
Right. And you also, during a conversation, you also mentioned that you might relaunch your app.
Yes, depends. If you get your $1 billion exit, you can invest, and then we can do this, baby. Let's do it.
So, why do you believe in the idea?
I believe in the idea as much as I did 10 years ago. I really am just 100% sold on how that could help people. I think it's just we would need to restructure it a little bit and add some stuff. And we would need a team. I would need a team, a really good team. So that's future music. I think after writing my book and launching these products, I might contemplate redoing that. Let's see.
Right.
Or maybe it has like a little bit of a different twist and can help some other people. But let's see. Let's see where the journey goes.
Right. I'm very curious about the app, and what can people expect coming into the app? Give us the very short version, which is, don't go into the details, like a
Okay.
short version of what can people experience.
So the original idea was to help people who are single and who miss the things that they used to do with their partners, but
Right.
not their partner themselves. And find people who are like-minded and miss the same things and share those experiences together. So, for example, if you go to the opera once a month with your partner and no longer have that partner, you still have those opera tickets, and then other people who enjoy opera as well, and you can enjoy it together, or do yoga, or go out, or whatever it is that you
Right.
enjoy with your partner, play golf, tennis, whatever. And to find people who are like-minded, enjoying their time, not dating and not trying to find someone new because they're still in their mending their heart phase. But after a breakup, just spending time with people who understand what you're going through. Does that make sense? And then matching you with those people. That's one. And the other aspect that we would have add now, if we would do it, is the therapeutic aspect of sort of like your virtual best friend that guides you through your breakup. And people always ask me like, yeah, but I have great friends or I have family. And that's fine. That's great. But this is an add-on to your specific situation. You might not want to talk to your friends about it for the 500th time. And, you know, we all know that situation. Like even if you have friends, you talk about it, you're tired of hearing yourself speak. So this app is then your virtual therapist friend that leads you through your breakup day by day for 30 days and gives you opportunities to do things that you would have not had without it. So it's meant to heal and mend your heartache and decrease loneliness.
Right.
Which would be beautiful if that would work worldwide.
Speaking of breakups, last question about love. So how long does it usually take for someone to, fall
Get
out of
over it?
love or get over someone?
Okay, so there's the I haven't read statistics lately, so don't pinch me down on this one. But there's statistics that say it takes as long as you were together or half the time that you were together to get over someone. So let's say you were with someone
Bullshit.
5 years. Yeah. That it takes 2.5 years to get over. I don't believe in that math at all. My experience from clients and personal life, I think, is, first of all, and I hate to say this, but it's sort of your heart lingers to your ex-partner until your heart jumps on someone else. So I do believe true healing of like having some love for someone is only if you re-fall in love with someone else.
Yeah.
That does not mean that you should fall in love with someone like 2 weeks after your partner and then you're healed. That's not what I mean by that. But I think new love heals your heart from old love. That's one thing. And I think that if you focus all your energy on yourself in your time of breakup and not go out, get wasted, try to ignore it or push it aside, but actually look at it, accept it, take it, feel all those feelings that you have, allow yourself to be in a horrible place for a while, and constructively, productively go at that. I think that's where you have the best chance to heal quicker. And it takes as long as it takes. That's really important too. Accept that. Some people, 1 month, some people 1 year. That's just how it is. And last add-on, if it was a toxic relationship, it's much harder and there's much higher rates of like falling back. And so if it's toxic, up to 7 times breaking up is completely normal. So like you have that 3 steps forward, 1 step back situation. And obviously, you can't get over them if you're still under them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Following up on that.
The interesting questions for last.
Yeah. My last question, I think, is going to be, is it a good idea to stay friends with your ex? Very popular question from a lot of people that I know, including my own personal question.
This was not on the script. No, I'm joking. Is it a good idea to stay friends with your ex? For me, this is going to be a personal answer because I don't do the therapy answer on this one. Personal answer, I think if you meet someone and they're good friends with some of their exes, I think that's a positive thing because it shows you that they still respect each other, that they still value each other, that one person didn't screw over the other one, so I think that's a good thing if you can be friends with your ex. Having said that, what I mean is like really friends and like friends. To have this thingy and flingy with your ex, that's a whole nother ball game. I don't think that's great. Yeah. But sometimes that's healing between relationships, or you always have that ex to go to, whatever. Sometimes people do that. I don't think there's a real answer for it, like yes or no. But I think if you can be friends or on a respectful note with your ex, that's fantastic. Like better than hating each other.
Great. So we've come to an end. So what would you like to tell our audience? Could be entrepreneurship or relationship. What would you like to tell them?
If you do find yourself questioning yourself or doubting yourself in your relationship, make sure that you seek some help because that's a place you don't want to be in. And I think that you don't need to be in it alone. I think that's something I want to tell them. Yeah.
And if people want to reach you, how can they reach you and why should they reach you?
Okay, so I have a website, www.alinakastner.com, that you can click yourself through it, see if it resonates, and if it does resonate, they can book online therapy if they're not in Austria. And if you are in Austria, you can just call me or email me and make an appointment. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So Alina, thank you so much for joining us. You gave us a lot to think about, and thank you for sharing your insights. Maybe a bit more too many personal questions from my end too, so that was good.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Hope you guys found this episode useful and the journey of Alina very interesting. I think her experience in psychotherapy has given me a lot of meaningful thoughts to actually go back and think about. So if you have any takeaways from this website, feel free to share your thoughts on the comments below or send us a DM to our Instagrams, which you can find in the description below. And also, please consider subscribing to the podcast, and everything is linked below. Again, I'm saying it again. And special thanks to Adele for working on some of these questions. And we'll return soon with another fascinating guest. Until then, stay brave and take the first step. Thank you so much.